everyone. Welcome to Supply Side 365 on LinkedIn. This is our Health Conditions Corner with the Herbal Pharmacist himself, David Foreman. Today, David's going to be talking to us about sleep, about the beneath the surface of sleep, about how it works in the body, and then the ingredients that we can use to help support it. Everybody knows that the market is hot right now for sleep support products, and David is one of our favorite speakers. He always tells it like it is. And with 26 years in the industry, you better believe that he knows what he's saying. And with that, David, please say, for everyone watching, please put your comments in the comment section below. And then David's going to talk for about 20 minutes. And then after that, we have about 10 minutes for some Q&A. So please write. You don't have to wait to the end. Write them in as they come to you, and we'll get to them at the end. Thank you so much for coming. And David, the floor is yours, my sir.
Sweet. Thank you, Cassie. Again, I want to thank Informa Supply Side Network 365 for kind of going along with this idea of Health Condition Corner. It was a discussion we had. And if you've missed any of the previous sessions, they are archived. Just open up your app and check it out. Today, we're going to talk about sleep, and sort of with the world that I live in the natural product industry. I really like both sales, marketing, and even formulators, R&D specialists to look at really what's going on in the body and then to formulate from that point forward. So in order to really quote, and I know I get in trouble for this all the time, but in order to quote, treat anything, we'll just say address it. How about that? That's a little bit better. In order to address any health challenge, you really have to know what's causing it in the body. So that's what this is really built around. And hopefully by the time this is over, it'll give you some interesting cutting edge things to think about. And even though I am the herbal pharmacist, today is going to be a little bit different because I am going to talk about quite a few things that are not botanical, just because. And everything is fully referenced. Keep in mind that this presentation will be available. I don't know if it's in perpetuity or not, but will be available on the Supply Side Network for your viewing pleasure. And if your ingredient did not get mentioned today, please don't send me scathing emails telling me that you think I'm an idiot because I didn't include XYZ ingredient. I have 20 minutes to cover a topic, and I decided to cover the things I could find the best research on. That's going to open a Pandora's box for me right there, Cassie, I can tell. So before we get into the condition, I always like to give you an idea of like what's really going on by the numbers. I think we can all agree that everybody watching this right now, including myself, probably occasionally has an issue with sleep. We can see that the magic number is 7 hours based on this slide. I don't like reading slides, but you can see people, or adults in this case, who got less than 7 hours of sleep, more likely to be obese, physically inactive, and or smoker compared to those who got more than 7 hours. And by the way, just for full transparency, the herbal pharmacist here needs about 9 to keep himself sane and functioning well. And I can tell you that if I go several days like Supply Side West or VitaFoods, or pick one of your favorite trade shows where you're up early and up late, I do play catch up when I return home. Again, you can see, that's that magic number of 7. People who got less than 7 hours were also more likely to develop chronic health conditions, which I'll cover coming up. And then let's not forget about our children, our youth. There are actually some really good supplements in our industry that can be used safely in adolescents, at least, and in some cases, even children. And then, of course, you can see the magic number there about the number of Americans. Keeping in mind, though, that this is really a global issue. So my apologies for those people around the world that are not US based. This is an issue globally. So I feel like you can extrapolate, take the US population, see what that is, and then extrapolate to where you live in the population. You're going to see that we're talking about tens of millions of people all around the world. So I said earlier that, that people that had less than 7 hours were a lot more likely to develop health issues. These are the areas in which we know that in some cases, just one bad night sleep or sleep deprivation. An example, one night of really bad sleep deprivation will significantly affect your immune system in a negative way. We also know that chronic sleep issues will lead to other mental health conditions like anxiety and depression, headaches, statistically significant increases in risk for different cardiovascular health problems, respiratory issues. And if you've seen this slide from me before, oh, you probably have. It was probably from my first Health Connection Corner in which we dove into stress. These are all pretty much the same things because we're really working with the same or similar neurotransmitters, and sleep also has that same negative effect on your adrenal system. So we will see this carry over. But the other reason I have this slide here is to also, for people that are looking at a way to innovate and perhaps differentiate themselves from other products on the market. If you do have a cardiovascular health formula, but you're thinking, man, everybody else has the same ingredients, you might want to consider having a PM formula on a lot of these areas where the PM formula is something that will help people sleep. Granted, directly, it won't necessarily have an effect on the condition, but indirectly it will. So just keep that in mind. As a matter of fact, I came up with the idea during COVID for people to formulate an AM and PM formula, sort of along the NyQuil type of thing. You know, they have the PM formula that knocks you on your butt, and they have the daytime formula. You don't get drowsy. Wouldn't it be cool to have an immune formula that takes care of stress and all that stuff during the day, maybe give you a little energy, like using an ashwagandha or something like that, but then have a sleep formula as well, maybe package them together. Just saying, if anybody does it, I expect half the commission on that one. I think that this is a potentially huge area to really differentiate ourselves in our industry. In order to understand like what ingredients do what and why and et cetera, it's really important to understand what the 4 stages of sleep are. And we can see here there's 4 stages of sleep, 3 of which, stage 1, 2, and 3, are called the non-rapid eye movement or first 3 stages of sleep. In this case, the 3rd phase of that stage 3 is the repair phase. Most of the time under industry, we focus on stage 1, which is getting your butt to sleep. And then stage 4, which is where people that had a good night's sleep, they're going, man, I had some really good dreams last night, or I had crazy dreams. People always associate those dreams or that rapid eye movement, that REM sleep, with a great night's sleep. Whereas the reality is as though if you're trying to repair, you're into sports fitness, or you just had an injury, or you're concerned about your immune health, et cetera, we really need to spend more time in this repair phase or that stage 3 of sleep. And again, the body will cycle through these 4 to 6 times. I feel like it's 6 and somebody like me that gets that 9 hours of sleep. It's probably more like 3 or 4 for people that are getting less than 7. And then again, keeping in mind that we really need to have about 75% of our sleep be in this non-REM stage. And yet when we get to the ingredients, you'll see where a lot of the things that we're formulating with don't do that. So again, these are the common sleep supplements. And I put them in alphabetical order. So that way there's nobody saying, well, you put me above them or they put whatever, just get over it again. These are some of the supplements I found that actually I could get you really the science on where, like what phase of sleep they're working. So that as you're formulating, granted, there are people who want to fall asleep quicker. They have trouble. They lay down and they just can't go to sleep. You're probably the person that's been watching freaky TV at night, something scares you, or you've been on your iPad or your phone or whatever, and you haven't let your brain kind of decompress and relax. You're the person that really needs something to help you get to sleep. And then there's other people that actually have trouble staying asleep. So these will give you a better idea of what phase of sleep we're actually having an effect on. So we can see 5-HTP. This actually increases REM sleep. So that means it increases stage 4. GABA. And by the way, if there is or was, or is in this case, a clinically substantiated ingredient, basically having the science and a trademarked ingredient, I did put at least one example of those in parentheses here. No financial affiliations, just like to give people a better idea of where to go look. Usually the branded ingredient that has the science is the ingredient you really want to use because they did all the research, and not all things are created equal, no matter what people say. So in this case, GABA targets the GABA-A receptor in the brain. This tends to increase the amount of REM sleep by almost 100%. But also will support an increase in non-REM sleep. So not a bad ingredient here if you're trying to hit that a little bit of the restorative sleep. L-theanine, this decreases stage 1, meaning you fall asleep quicker, but it also increases staying in that REM sleep a little bit longer. Is that a good or bad thing? It really depends on how you're trying or what you're trying to formulate for. Magnesium, this is one of my favorite sleep supplements for multiple reasons. What we can see here that magnesium intake actually affects the levels of melatonin your body will produce. So that's kind of cool. You get that supportive mechanism going on here, but it also is shown to reduce levels of cortisol. Why am I pointing that out here? A lot of times there's that direct connection between the amount of stress we have in sleep, and anything that we know that has an effect on lowering cortisol levels usually means it's having an effect on stress. And obviously, if we can help alleviate stress, we'll have a positive impact. And I left out an awful lot of ingredients that are normally used for stress in this presentation, like ashwagandha, et cetera, primarily because they're less looked on as that direct effect on sleep, whereas in this case, magnesium can be because of its effect on melatonin. Melatonin, keep in mind, this is an over-the-counter hormone. It is not a natural supplement, okay? Those ingredients that actually help support the body's production, those would be considered natural. But in my opinion, melatonin really should be looked at as more of a drug than anything. And we can see in the body that melatonin levels are really very low at stage 3, which is the restorative time of sleep, which is where I want to, as a 58-year-old dude, want to spend my time, so that my workout today, that later tonight, my body can go into recovery mode and repair, or I can help recharge my immune system, et cetera. And again, melatonin definitely does increase REM sleep. By the way, just because I semi-bashed melatonin doesn't mean I'm against it. I do take melatonin, especially when I travel across time zones. I found it to be very beneficial at helping to reset my clock. But yeah, man, I have some really freaky dreams because of that. Well, guess why? You're in REM sleep a little bit longer. Moving along, PEA. A lot of people may or may not have heard of PEA, the patented, clinically substantiated version, Levagen Plus. Levagen is works sort of in the endocannabinoid system, but it's not CBD. Some really great research. One, in increasing that non-REM sleep, so that restorative sleep. We're staying more in the stages of 1, 2, and 3. Another reason I haven't included here is I feel like another, quote, hidden mechanism of action for why Levagen would help with sleep is because there are some really good clinical studies on it for pain as well. So there are studies on it for sleep, but there's also studies on it for pain. And we do know that people that suffer from pain definitely has a negative effect on their ability to sleep at night. Finally, getting into some botanicals here, passion flower. Again, this inhibits the GABA, the uptake of GABA. So you basically are getting that neurotransmitter to stay at the synaptic cleft or the binding site a little bit longer. So that's not a bad thing. What we've seen with passion flower is that it will significantly decrease that stage 1. So you're going to fall asleep a lot quicker. Problem with passion flower and valerian, in my opinion, is you often will have that groggy feeling where pretty much everything I've mentioned so far most likely won't have too much of that groggy, getting your brain going in the morning. Less caffeine required in the morning, which is a really good thing. Saffron. So in this case, Affron. Affron has 3 clinical studies done on sleep, a new one coming out. Recent mechanism of action identified with Affron showed that it actually increased natural melatonin production. Should you have to worry about that during the day? No, you shouldn't, because your body's going to produce melatonin when it's dark. When it's daylight, your body's just not going to do that. And keep in mind that Affron is also the patented version of saffron in the U.S. For use in stress and mood, et cetera. And also a study with Affron showed that it increased restorative sleep. Valerian I talked about briefly, again, kind of along the same lines as passion flower, a little bit like L-theanine. We're going to see that decrease in stage 1, but we see increases in both 3 and 4. So this can have a little bit of that restorative. Valerian might be one of my favorites to use if you're really, trying to formulate for success to help people fall asleep quicker, and then maybe stay asleep a little longer. The problem again is that it makes you feel drowsy, whereas something like saffron would not have that effect. And last but not least, ingredients that I like to mention. This is something I'm new to. This is actually Zea mays. It's actually from baby corn leaves, trademarked Maisonol. This scientifically is shown to support melatonin production. It actually, of the two melatonin receptors in the brain, it has more of a propensity to bind to MT2, which is the increase in that non-REM restorative sleep phase, and not that high of an affinity for the MT1, which is actually going to drive more of your REM sleep. Again, this is just the tip of the iceberg on ingredients, and I'd be remiss if I didn't do what I always do when I do these Health Connection Corners, is just to kind of give formulators, marketers a way to look at perhaps formulating for success. And in this case, maybe beginning with a supportive food group. I do know that tart cherries are probably and chamomile in this case are my favorites on this list. Tart cherries actually have a naturally occurring low level of melatonin. And chamomile, I think we all know, has so many different benefits with regards to calming, sleeping, even has some especially Roman chamomile has a really good propensity to helping with decreasing inflammation in the body. And then again, stress the stage of sleep you want to. So our goal probably is to decrease stage 1 and 2, meaning you fall asleep quicker, and then to increase stages 3 and or 4. Obviously for me, and for people formulating maybe in sports nutrition, joint health, etc., immune health, you probably want to formulate more for those restorative sleep ingredients that I mentioned earlier. So increasing phase or stage 3, or maybe stage 3 and 4. You want to keep people perhaps in those areas a little bit longer. And then last but not least, we are a pill fatigue society. I do know that especially Gen Z seems to be allergic to anything that's in a pill or pill form, tablet or capsule. So looking at formulating for success with a gummy, a shot, stick pack, etc. I think we all get that idea. Keep in mind who you're formulating for, though. If you're formulating for a 58-year-old dude like me, I'm less likely to really want a gummy personally. So maybe do a little market research on who you're really trying to formulate for. If you're trying to formulate for my 20-something-year-old children, they're more likely to want to have a stick pack, a mini shot or something like that, as opposed to just popping a pill to, quote, take care of their ill. And Cassie, this is wrapping up my stuff. By the way, these slides are fully referenced, so I will show that at the end. Keep in mind that this presentation will be available on Supply Side Network, so you can check it out regularly. Please stay tuned for December. We don't have the date yet, but our next one for December is actually going to be on a very taboo topic of weight loss. And yes, in keeping with my normal way of being, we're going to point out some of the really good and like scientifically substantiated ingredients, what mechanisms of action that we really want to go towards. And I try not to be too negative, but there's an awful lot of, as my grandfather would have said, shysters out there, especially in the weight loss industry. And we're not doing a lot of people any good with that. So Cassie, I'm going to turn it back to you. Okay.
All right. We just got a question from Michael Movitz, who is the co-founder at Brand Jectory. And he asked, my experience as a consumer with magnesium is unpleasant. I wake up very groggy. My friends say the same. Any recommendations? I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh, Michael. I've heard that one before. So for those people that are maybe unfamiliar with what Michael's talking about, magnesium is one of those really awesome ingredients to help loosen up your bowels. Well, whatever. I mean, I could use other language too, Cassie, but I'm trying to keep this like sort of politically correct or whatever. So here's the deal. Everybody has a different sensitivity to magnesium and or the form that they're consuming. Personally, I'm old school mag citrate. That goes back to my pharmacy days. What I would say, Michael, is to start out with a lower dose and work your way up. Sometimes people jump in with both feet. So like the majority of people, I think, in modern cultures are magnesium deficient just because we don't eat the whole foods that were like nuts and seeds that are commonly high in magnesium. But I still recommend it. I just start out at a lower dose. You can find a product that and read the labels. A lot of times with magnesium, it'll say that you're getting 400 milligrams, but if you read closely, it might be in 2 capsules or 3 tablets or whatever. But start on the lower end and work your way up. So what I tell people to do is take maybe, start out with like a half dose
maybe 100 to 200 milligrams at bedtime, and do that for 3 or 4 days, and just see how your body's tolerating it. If you're really not noticing some people actually get watery diarrhea from it. Like, that's how gross it can be. But if you're not really experiencing that, then go up. A lot of people that are watching this right now, Michael, probably going, dude, I had no idea I could take magnesium for my constipation. The other thing, Cassie, I want to point out is that with regards to magnesium, granted we're magnesium deficient, but there are people that perhaps might be more sensitive to this or sensitive to magnesium. And those are the people that probably already have some sort of propensity to having like an irritable bowel, inflammatory bowel type condition. And with those people, they will fluctuate between the constipation phase and the diarrhea phase. So those people also need to keep that in mind. So hopefully I answered your question. Slowly work into it. Michael, I actually take 3 200 milligram magnesium capsules a day. I actually take mine in the morning. I don't take them for sleep. I just take them because I know that I used to be magnesium deficient. And the other thing is, there are blood tests, finger sticks you can order online to actually find out what your magnesium levels. Maybe magnesium is not the right thing for you.
All right, thank you. This is a question from me. In your list of ingredients, what are combinations that do go? So if I wanted to create a sleep product, can I combine some of those ingredients? Are there some that should not go together? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes, that you could definitely combine. I guess that would be a duh, right? Yeah, so like just thinking off the top of my head, combining something like maybe a low dose of valerian to help people get to sleep quicker, or maybe like a suntheanine with something like an Afron or a Mazanol that are more on the restorative sleep side of things. The other thing that I've learned through my research, Cassie, is that our industry always thinks that more is better, and so some people are formulating with like 10 milligrams of melatonin. And if you really look at some of the better research on melatonin, it's actually less than a milligram is usually sufficient to get people where they want to go. More is not necessarily better, but yeah, you can easily combine ingredients. I did a similar webinar recently on sleep, and actually did it at Supply Side. And one of the things I wanted to would like to bring up with people is that we can safely combine these ingredients, and it'd be really cool if we could have a dual. And I know this is getting away from like use unique delivery methods, but if we could have like a bi-layered tablet where part of it's immediate release with those things that help me get to sleep quicker, and then a more sustained or timed release on those things that are going to maybe work more so in that phase, the stage 3 or stage 4, that'd be killer right there.
That's awesome. That's a great idea. Again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And I have another one. We were talking about formulation for your audience. I thought that was a really smart thing to say. And that got me wondering, are there considerations aside from a delivery format that you need to take in creating a product for you or for a teenager? So they have different sleep amount needs, you maybe not so much. Anything else that would be different?
I don't know. After my 5 weeks of travel ending in Vegas for a week, I definitely have had some sleep. I've definitely been, as I like to say, my son would say, Dad, your sleep's jacked up. I was definitely jacked up on sleep. Even this past Sunday, falling asleep on my sofa at like 4:30 in the afternoon, waking up at 7:30, still sitting up is a little bizarre, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, you kind of have to know who you're dealing with. Like for children, probably something more like maybe formulating a little stick pack that can be mixed in water or yogurt or applesauce, and if I freaked anybody out with those food choices, please forgive me. And or I don't know if I'm answering your question right. Like here, Cassie, am I going down the right path?
So not necessarily the delivery format, but are there other considerations within sleep that you have to formulate for?
Yeah, I mean, So keep in mind. So I'll give you an example. There was a study done with Afron in adolescents, and so you could perhaps look at now. Granted, in this one they still actually use the same adult dose, but considering the age bracket, or perhaps somebody that's geriatric, also considering that they're probably on medications that affect their ability to clear things from their system. So perhaps, with the younger and the much older people, considering dosage modifications to allow for maybe their size. I was just part of a VitaFoods Insights program on women. Actually, it just went live today. And if you want to find it, I actually reposted it on my LinkedIn today. But the interesting thing is, like, a lot of the studies that are done are with majority of men, yet women, your body structure, your hormones, your metabolism and everything is so much different. So in this case, again, why give a man's dose to a female, because most men might weigh 175 to 250 pounds, where most women are probably between 90 and 140. I don't know. I'm throwing out really crazy numbers, but, that's the other part of it is really, and that goes back to the children thing. Like, you could probably do this with a 12-year-old, but keep in mind, they might only weigh 70 pounds or 60 pounds. And so maybe in that case, you're looking at a possibility of take one or two, like I said to Michael earlier, stair step your magnesium. With a child or someone that's a geriatric, you might want to have that opportunity to go, you could take one or two of these, or 1, 2, or 3. And that way you can dose it for whatever works for you. You can play with it.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we are just about out of time. David, thank you so much for this presentation and for answering our questions. Again, if you're watching, we will have another one of these about weight loss in December. Date and time TBD. And if you ever have any ideas or something in particular you'd like to hear from David about, please put them in the chat, and we can deep dive into some ingredients and health conditions. Anything else from you, David, before we sign off?
No, but since we are live, I just want to wish everybody a safe and happy, healthy Thanksgiving, and enjoy your friends and family.
Of course. Thank you all so much for coming. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.